I built up a lot of great capital, and if something should happen, we're in a position to do far worse by not doing it. But hopefully we don't have to do anything. But you can't let Iran have a nuclear weapon, and you can't let certain other countries have nuclear weapons. Too devastating. So they're having a lot of difficulty in their country right now, and hopefully at some point they'll come back and they'll say, we're going to make a deal. We'll see what happens.
You know, it used to be the president was the lone critic of Iran, at least in the European community, and some of our allies have said they wanted to keep the deal, the nuclear deal we had in place with Iran, warts and all. But now even France has had enough. Emmanuel Macron very concerned about these breaches on Iranian capabilities and the kind of stuff that builds, you know, the kind of nuclear power that we really don't want Iran to become. Former National Security Advisor, former Vice President Dick Cheney, John Hanna, on all of that. John, what do you make of this now that even the French are saying, you know, these comments you've been making around the last couple of days are troubling?
Well, it's obviously an encouraging sign, Neil, that the Europeans warn the Iranians, as frustrated as you are, do not test us, do not begin breaching the constraints of the nuclear deal. The Iranians have now done that, and it doesn't look like the Europeans are going to respond. They're desperate to keep the deal alive. They're going to engage in negotiations, but the fact is that the Iranians have already made a threat that as early as this weekend, they could blow through the next constraint, which is actually much more worrisome and dangerous, which is enriching uranium to much higher levels beyond what they're allowed right now, perhaps as high as 20%, which is at least halfway to having the kind of fissile material that you need to build a bomb.
Well, the Iranians always claim, as you know, well, it started with the United States. We were sticking to this deal. The president ripped it up. Even the co-signees on this told him it was a mistake. You left us with no other choice. What do you say?
That's the Iranian narrative, and I think the European narrative has to be, we hear your pain, we're trying our best to keep this deal alive, maybe to create a mechanism to facilitate some trade with you, but if you push the limits of this deal, if you push the envelope, begin breaking out towards a nuclear weapons capability, that is our red line. We cannot allow that, and then we'll be forced to join the United States in diplomatic isolation and snapping back international sanctions. And that's the choice that the day of reckoning that's coming for Europe, I'm afraid.
You know, I get the distinct impression Iran does not care. Maybe it's just crazy. This is what you're dealing with. Maybe it's just the protection of a lot of those unfrozen assets, tens of billions of which it already has from signing on to the original deal in the first place. But something's got to explain this bellicose position they're taking.
I actually think kind of the opposite, Neil. I do think that this escalation on the part of the Iranians that we've seen over the last 6 or 7 weeks is precisely not a sign of their confidence and craziness and willing to rush to a bomb, but a sign of their desperation and the extent to which these unilateral U.S. sanctions are actually crushing their economy. I don't think they believe they can wait out President Trump. That they are maybe months away from hitting a balance of payments crisis, and they've got to do everything they can now to threaten and blackmail the international community into relieving this pressure and getting the president to back off. They're kind of going for broke. I think they're about negotiations here and diplomacy, but they're running a lot of risks, and it can easily escalate beyond their control.
Yeah, to be sure. All right, John Hanna, thank you very much.
Thanks, Neil.